David Brooks is a political and cultural op-ed columnist for the New York Times. He's also the author of the new book called The Road to Character. In it, David Brooks argues we have made a wrong turn when it comes to personal morality. He says our society is becoming more shallow and self-centered, but he believes some of the world's great leaders and thinkers show us how to get back on track. His essay drawn from the book is currently the New York Times' most emailed article. Good morning.
Good to see you, Charlie.
We'll talk about, yes, it's great to have you here. Before we talk about The Road to Character, which is a fascinating book and understanding, our obsession with self, tell me about how you see the Hillary Clinton announcement and her possibilities in this campaign and what she's worried about.
Obviously, she's an underdog against the Lincoln Chafee juggernaut that she's not able to stop.
I was talking about that last week.
She understands correctly that people sense there's something missing, something broken in society, and so she's doing the humility thing to stay down and be relatable. The big question for me is a question of imagination. Very undervalued political skill. Can you combine something new? Everybody who wins combines old things in new ways. She hasn't really done that in her career, but so we'll see if she can do it.
Does she have to do that, or can she have people convince her to do that?
Well, right now she's a monopoly, which is great, but monopolies suffer. They get a little jagged around the edges. And so she somehow has to be fresh and offer something new, as Obama did, as Bush did, as Clinton did, something new. And she hasn't done that yet.
This word humility comes at a perfect time while you're out talking about the book, because you mention it many times. But what fascinated me is that you said you wrote this book to save your own soul because you were born with a natural disposition towards shallowness. David Brooks, I had to read that part twice.
How did I wind up in journalism with shallowness? No, it's true. Yeah, I was up in Frederick, Maryland. I was watching some people who were tutoring immigrants how to read, and it takes like 7 years to learn. And I walked into a room with 30 or 40 ladies, and they radiated a goodness and a patience and a service. And they weren't thinking about how great they were. They were just not thinking about themselves at all. And I thought, well, I've achieved like more career success than I ever thought I would. But I looked at the inner light they had, and I said, I haven't achieved that.
You thought something was missing for you.
Yeah, and so I wanted to at least know how you get that. And so the book was really a 4 or 5 years explanation to gather a group of friends who are dead, but they can be friends to us and sort of lead us the way. I don't know if I can get there. I don't know if anybody else, but we can take a journey together.
I mean, in this book, you profile great leaders and thinkers, everybody from Francis Perkins to Dwight Eisenhower. What did you learn? What is the road to character?
Yeah, a lot of it is understanding your own weakness. We're raised in a society we call a big me society. In 1950, the Gallup organization asked high school kids, are you a very important person? Then 12% said yes. They asked again, 2005, 80% said, yes, I'm a very important person. We all think we're super important. But the road to character is built by confronting your own weakness. The road to success is taking advantage of your talents. But the people in this book had different weaknesses.
And so, for example, Dwight Eisenhower, I didn't know this story about him.
Yeah,
his anger, his temper.
He had this amazing mom. When he was 9, he wanted to go trick-or-treating. She wouldn't let him. He punched a tree in the front yard so bad he rubbed all the skin off his knuckles. She sent him to his room, he cried, and then she said, he who conquereth his own soul is greater than he who taketh the city. 7 years later, he said that was the most important conversation of his life. Because it taught him that he had this weakness, he'd overcome it, and he became strong in his weakest spot.
I love that. I mean, I love that whole story in this book, yeah.
Let me just be autobiographical for a second with you. I mean, you went there. Were you troubled in your own sense? Were you searching for something? I mean, when you said about your soul, I knew I had to work harder to save my own soul. Were you worried about your soul when you entered that place?
I wasn't in any sort of crisis. I wasn't falling apart. I was fine.
But there was something missing in your life?
But, I'd spent so much of my life on my career, and I hope I was a decent dad, and am a decent dad. But we have a moral obligation to get better every day. Yeah. And no matter how old you are, you could be 80 and you could be done with your career, but there's so much left to do to become better every day.
Go ahead, but my sense of the question was asked, how do you get there?
Yeah, so some of the things you can do are practical. You can say, what is my core sin? How can I confront that every day? You can sit home in bed as a friend of mine at the end of the day and say, how did I do today? How did was I really present for people when they needed me?
He writes down all his mistakes, and then he pledges to do better tomorrow. Yeah, but you're seeing disturbing things, though, David, because you say a Gallup poll in 1950, high school seniors were asked, are they important? Only 12% said yes. 2005, 80% said yes.
He mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I heard him. Yeah. College students have more value on money and career and success, but in 1960, the students were motivated by developing meaningful philosophies of life. What is wrong with believing yourself and thinking that you're special and I want to be good and I am a good person, want to make money. What's wrong with that?
I think that's great, and we all should believe in ourselves, but we should have humility. To me, it's not thinking lowly of yourself, it's radically honest self-awareness. It's knowing your strengths, but it's also knowing your weaknesses and being able to see yourself from a distance. And we live in a culture that wants us to think well of ourselves. We tell our kids how great they are all the time. And that's great for your career. If you're branding yourself, that's great for social media. If you want a highlight reel of your own life, you can put up on Facebook. But if you want inner growth, you got to be radically honest with yourself.
I thought a useful exercise, you say distinguish between resume virtues and eulogy virtues.
Yeah, so the resume virtues are the stuff we bring to our jobs. Are you a good teacher? Are you a good journalist? Are you good something else? The eulogy virtues are the stuff they say about you after you're dead. Were you honest? Were you capable of great love? Were you courageous? And we all know the eulogy virtues are more important. But our society and a lot of the way we raise our kids, our educational system, put more emphasis on the resume virtues. And that leaves us inarticulate about our own inner lives.
And are we teaching that in schools?
Right. And so I think, I teach, I'm a professor, and my students know how to get jobs, how to get internships, but they're so hungry for the inner life. They're really great kids, they're great, phenomenal, but they don't have a vocabulary. So the book is an attempt to give people just a forum to think about. I can't tell you how to be good, but I can show you people who've done it, and I can give you a forum to think about your own life.
I remember somebody who once said to me, think about the end of your life and what you would like for people to say about you at that time, and then dedicate yourself to reaching those virtues.
Right, and you can even write your eulogy, the one you want, and there's a gap between, and certainly in my case, between my desired self, like the ladies I'd love to be, and my actual self, struggling along. We're all just stumbling along.
And you leave it with, it's okay to be flawed. I thought that was a very helpful.
Better because we all are.
It's okay to be flawed,
David Brooks, another most emailed column and another fabulous book. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yes.